For agents, I just want to recall something a bit quick. Maybe it'll be quick, I don't know. But just because it's now been a little over 2 years since I started the Ingress Insights podcast, so I just want to chat about a bit of background stuff behind the podcast, if that's of interest to anyone. So back in October 2023, probably a few months before that, I'd started thinking about doing a podcast about Ingress. So I listened to Prime Tips. That's great, but it doesn't always update consistently. I think at the minute the last episode is 2024. I also went back and listened to Agent Academy, listened to all those episodes, and that was all great stuff. But I noticed I was listening to a lot of podcasts during like the pandemic and stuff. I'd picked up a few Pokemon Go ones. I'd picked up Welcome to Night Vale, a few other politics ones, things like that. But I noticed there were a whole lot of podcasts for Pokemon Go, basically all saying the same thing, all covering the news in the same kind of way. So that was a bit saturated on there. So I was surprised there wasn't a regular Ingress podcast also covering the news on that because there's quite a lot of news from Ingress. I thought that initially I'd do one every 2 weeks as there wasn't as much news as there is for Pokemon Go. Obviously, that changed pretty quickly, and I ended up doing one every week. And then back in probably end of September, I decided after looking around, not actually talking to anyone about co-hosting the podcast, but looking around a few people I might approach, that it was probably easier to just do it myself. So I brought a small £20 microphone. I've upgraded since. I don't know if this will show well in the video. Maybe briefly. There's the Shure mic that I use now. Hopefully that fades away again. I didn't have any clue what I was doing. I started the podcast, so I used to just record things in sections. I still do that now, but I do it in Audacity. Whereas previously, when I started, I was recording single files every time and then stitching them together in Spotify for podcasters because that was something you could do at the time and that seemed easiest to me. So if you go back over the first few episodes, I've got separate files for each part I discuss. So if I discuss Dark XM Clue, that's one file. If I discuss Discovery, that's another file. And I just stitch them all together, put in some background stuff that Spotify would allow you to do. It'd allow you to add a backing track that would automatically sync to it. They've changed that now. That's no longer the process. It's now just upload a file, and they're obviously pushing for video podcasting. So I don't know how that will work out, whether there would be more on there. And then I thought one of the important things for the podcast when I was considering co-hosting is I'm enlightened, obviously wearing a green hoodie at the moment. And I thought that it would be useful to have someone that was in resistance to balance things out. But then I also considered it would probably be a faff because it'd be someone in a different time zone trying to arrange things when I didn't know what kind of time I'd be doing, when I'd be recording. I didn't have a solid plan. So I thought I'll just try doing it myself, see how that goes. And I think so far it's going pretty well for an Ingress podcast about a game that nobody plays. Everyone says is dead, but still get a good amount of listeners every week. I know I've recently added the Patreon. I kind of thought long and hard about monetizing. So I did try a few little things. So there is the Ko-fi page where you can buy episodes of the show. And there's the TeePublic site with a few things with the logos on. So not massively monetized in that way. I think this Patreon thing, I was kind of balancing things between begging for money to support the podcast and also trying to make it useful for people. So hopefully there is. And just thinking about the logo, obviously the current one is behind me. I got someone to design that a little while ago. I think it balances out the blue and green pretty well in the symbol in the podcast title, which obviously I stole from the Ingress community forums because they had a section called Ingress Insights. I like alliteration, so it's like that works well. People like alliteration, people link it. So yes, it works well for branding. So I'll have that. Thanks, Ingress. But as I was saying, I made the first logo myself in paint. It was awful, but it was purple and red being the logo for the app at the time, and then the blue and green for the actual title. As I not great, so I thought get some better branding and get someone to make the logo there. One of the other things I wanted to mention that I was kind of unsure about was covering non-Ingress things. So a bit early on in the podcast, I reached out to a sim in the Peridot team I'd spoken to previously, just to see whether he was interested in talking about the app and bring things in. And I was like, how do I deal with that? What should I do? People won't expect it as a part of a normal Ingress thing, but I think it's interesting to still talk about. So then I did the Inverse Insights as special episodes, which you can then get a separate podcast feed for as well. Obviously, that's not updated regularly, but I'm quite happy with the things I don't like the Future on Worlds of Tomorrow one, Witcher Monster Slayer, which was lots of fun talking to Smooth Gove about NBA All World and going through with HP Woo Lola on everything, and even talking to Jeff James about Marvel World of Heroes that never came out. So that's all been good stuff. Hopefully, you've all found it useful and good thing to listen to about Ingress. Like I say, part of looking at it and realizing there wasn't really one that regularly updated, something that pushed me to do it, even though I had no clue what I was doing at the start. But yeah, I just want to record a little something to celebrate the 2 year anniversary, give a bit of a look behind the scenes and how I started off, which was, as I said, the £20 microphone plugged in via USB, stood on top of 6 or 5 D&D books, so it got close enough to my face to not make it sound terrible. I hope there's many more years ahead for the podcast and things I can do many more years ahead for Ingress as well. Got the year 13 celebrations next month. Hopefully recon before the end of the year. And I'm sure the Ingress team have got lots of other ideas on what they want to do. I've got plenty of questions to go through with Brian Rose at some point soon. So hopefully you like it all. If you've got any feedback, always drop it on Blue Sky, send something on Instagram, send me an email. All the links are on every episode of the podcast. So you can contact me there. You can see me in various Telegram chats and other places. So don't be afraid to reach out. Give me really critical feedback. Give me really nice feedback. Any is great. But that's about it for me. So I'm recording this on Halloween. I'll put it up on Patreon probably later today, and I'll put it up on the regular feed a few days later, maybe 2 weeks later, just to talk about it on there. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you just get the audio. Obviously, you can watch it on YouTube or Spotify for podcasters. Should play the video, but up to you. I've got a few other video ideas I've talked about just with myself. Things planned. So I hope you all had a great Halloween and happy hacking.